Welcome back to our mini-series, The Lone Screenplay Winners, where we talk about films that solely won an Oscar for the writing categories. My name is Matthew Anderson, and today we have back on the podcast, what feels like a very long time since we last had him back on, the host of the One Inch Barrier podcast, Juan Carlos Ollano. How you doing today?
I'm doing very good. Like, really, really good. I mean, to talk about this film under any circumstance, I would love to have that opportunity. This film really means so much to me, and yeah, I'm excited. I'm looking forward to chatting with it. I'm really excited.
And it's not the fact that we had to deal with technical issues for the last hour and a half, was it? Yeah. For our listeners out there listening, if this episode is up, then yeah, I guess this is successful enough. But yeah, no, we've been running around with a lot of tech issues, connection issues, servers
Personal
not
issues.
working. Yeah, servers not wanting to work at all, personal issues. Yeah. Yeah, that's that. Anyways, yeah, since we've already look, we got loads to discuss in regards to this movie, so we'll just get started. This will be our spoiler-filled talk on Call Me by Your Name from 2017. If anyone is interested in watching this film before hearing our talk or would like to own a physical copy of said film, check out the links below in the below the episode's description. I've also listed the equipment I use for the podcast as well as film books I recommend you read if you're interested in learning more about screenwriting on or Oscar trivia from the past ceremonies or whatever the case. You just want to do more reading on films, filmmaking I should say. Go right ahead and check them out. I should also mention, I already said this on the Sense and Sensibility episode, but recently I've joined the Amazon affiliate program and want to give you guys a heads up that some of the product links used in the description below are compensated affiliated links. I earn a small commission each time you click through and purchase said products listed, and just a heads up, there's no additional cost every time you click on said products. If you're interested in, clicking on the links and are interested in getting, like I said, a new mic, you want to get the film books I recommended, the physical movie itself. Yeah, so that's that. So on to the film at hand. This movie was directed by Luca Guadagnino, who had done other films with I Am Love from 2009, A Bigger Splash in 2015. Recently, he had done Challengers, starring Zendaya. And he also directed Queer, starring Daniel Craig. And I think he's got later on this year, releasing in October by Amazon Studios, After the Hunt. So, yeah, he's got a lot of work on his hands for sure. And the screenplay for the film we're going to talk about was written by James Ivory, in which he adapted the novel by Andre Osman. For anyone out there who's listening, if you're wondering why that name should sound familiar to you, James Ivory, it's the fact that he was nominated for 3 directing Oscars, directing nominations, I should say, for Remains of the Day, Howard's End, and A Room with a View, which I would highly recommend you check out those films. I haven't seen Remains of the Day yet, but I have seen the other 2. I remember liking them a lot. It's been a while since I've seen Howard's End, but I remember really liking them both for sure. So definitely recommend watching those as well. As for the premise for Call Me By Your Name, it's pretty simple, honestly. The film takes place in the summer of 1983 in Italy when Elio Perlman befriends his father's intern, Oliver. And over the course of the film, the two eventually get into a relationship where the 17-year-old experiences first love and heartbreak, among other things, throughout the summer. I should also point out, too, as a fair warning, look, I mentioned this also as well with the Sense and Sensibility episode. There is an age gap between Oliver and Elio, but not only was this in the 1980s, set in Italy, but also Italy's age of consent rules have lowered compared to the United States, or, honestly, the United States. So anyone who's offended by that age gap or offended by that being a part of the story, it's like, hey, it's the story, happened in the 80s, and again, different age of consent. Not saying I condone it, but it is what it is. So, yeah. As for the film discussion itself, I just want to ask one of the many questions I want to ask you, Juan. Why was it that you want to choose this film for the podcast episode?
Because it's a film that spoke to me at the time, and luckily when I rewatched it now, it still does. Um, I've said it before and I'll say it again. When I first watched it in 2018, I watched it twice in the cinemas. The one was in the preview. The one was like in a sneak peek. I made an effort. I traveled 3 hours to get there because it was one of the most anticipated films of 2017, and it wasn't coming. It was the release date was so protracted that there was much anticipation in it. There was a film festival that showed it here, but it was sold out. It was sold out. So I watched it then, and its first day in a sneak peek, and in its last day here. It stayed in cinemas for 2 weeks. That never happens. It's usually Oscar contenders. They usually stay for a week.
Oh wow!
I remember in a cinema here, I Tonya, it lasted only for a day. Yeah, and
Okay.
in the cinema, we were only two people. I was in the balcony. The one is in the lower box. So, Call Me by Your Name staying for 2 weeks. That's big for an independent film with at the time no big names. I mean,
Yeah.
at the time, Timothée Chalamet isn't the heartthrob that he is now. Armie Hammer was on the verge of stardom then, so there wasn't really any big names. And if you would watch the film, I was surprised that Armie Hammer is actually top billed than Timothée Chalamet. That was a very interesting observation. I watched it twice, then never watched it again. I was so precious with the experience. And the thing was, when I watched it then, I was deeply in love with someone. In fact, I asked him if we could watch this film together. He was busy, so I watched it alone. Thankfully, I watched it alone because it was such a personal experience. It's beyond romance. It's me discovering things about myself emotionally, sensually, in terms of desire, in terms of emotions, in terms of like things that I don't notice that I'm actually doing as a person. So, given that it's so special, and I have a diary which had lots of entries, several days, all I could talk about was Call Me By Your Name. And I was saying things like, I was awakened. This changed my life. I will treasure this experience forever. I remember watching that film in a cold cinema, and I was heating up. And it wasn't because of the sex. It was because of how the film feels so warm visually. I was heating up and I couldn't help it. And now I didn't watch it since then. Because again, I'm too precious with the experience. So when I got the chance to be on this podcast, this was months in advance. I couldn't predict how life was going to turn out for me. I watched it less than 28 hours ago. And right now, again, I'm deeply in love with someone. So, this experience of like me watching Call Me by Your Name every time I'm in love with someone. But that's how we watch films, right? We bring ourselves to the films. It's never just like watching the films objectively. No, we bring ourselves to it, and that's an interesting experience that I'm so glad I did. And just this week, I the guy that I was in love with in 2018, I messaged him again and just said, congratulations on your new job, whatever. So, I'm so in love right now. so to watch this film now.
Spoke to you.
Yeah, so it spoke to
timing.
me. The timing is brilliant. So thank you. Thank you for giving me the alibi to watch this film again.
Nice. Yeah. No, I personally had been wanting to watch this for years, especially since Timothée Chalamet got his, I would say personally, deserved Oscar nomination for this. I'll get into his performance in a moment. But, yeah, no, it was one that I thought, it's been a while since I've seen this, and now that I started expanding my Lone Screenplay Nominee podcast show into like a mini series of sorts, going through the Lone Screenplay winners, and this will come out on my birthday, August 8th. So yeah, so I'm like, I'm still right in the summertime of like, all right, sure, perfect. It's like still right there in the summer. Let's talk about Call Me by Your Name. And I've been trying to get more people on for the episode. Some people wouldn't be able to do it because of scheduling conflicts and so on. So I just thought, all right, let me see if I can ask Juan Carlos Ayano, because he hasn't been on since Another Year, which was directed by Mike Lee, which I think was a Sony Pictures Classics film, if I'm not mistaken, here in the United States.
It is. It is.
Okay, wow. What a coincidence. All right. Yeah, so I figured, yeah, let's see if I can get Juan on. And when you said yes, I'm like, perfect. Let's do a time. And yeah, here we are right now. We're literally discussing a Luca Guadagnino movie and a Timothée Chalamet performance I actually like. I promise to anyone who's listening there, Jack Mahanes is not off screen with the gun pointed at my head. When I said the terms, I like Timothée Chalamet in this role. I swear to God, there are actually a couple movies of him that I actually liked. And one thing that I do want to get into in regards to his performance here and why I think personally it worked well enough. And for the record, I should also point out, yes, I understand I don't have similar or the same feelings for this film like you do, Juan, but I could still appreciate a lot of the movie for its just incredible craft, from even the behind the camera trickery. Like, Luca Guadagnino is so. This was the first movie of his that I saw. The second one being Challengers. And I would like to see more of Luca's films, especially his earlier catalog with I Am Love and maybe a bigger splash down the road. But one thing that I was really blown away by, even rewatching it again, was I was really impressed with how Luca was able to capture such stunning shots of Italy, like through their whole trip throughout the film. But it also with the way that it's shot and it's framed, and even how the sound work is used throughout the film, not just the music choice, but even recording the sounds on set and whatnot, and using it in a way that makes you feel like you're literally transported into that world. There was another film a couple years ago that did this in a really incredible way, but a more darker tone almost, was Zone of Interest for me, where that really used a lot of incredible sound work and really gorgeous cinematography as well, where you feel like you're right there with the characters. Like, even if you didn't connect with them emotionally or didn't really connect with the story, you felt like you were right there with the characters as they were going through their journey, well, their whole story with Zone of Interest. Same thing with here, with Call Me By Your Name. And I'm so impressed by Luca, to where I'm like, why aren't we getting a lot of directors, or even like another director like Luca, who's able to capture this so well and without having to resort to a lot of this like flashy editing, flashy photography. And it's, don't get me wrong, this does have a fair amount of flash to the photography, but it's more patient, it's more steady, it's more, it knows that it needs to take its time and sort of letting us absorb this world going on. You know, even it's just like an example of this would be a shot of Elio and Oliver riding on bikes, and you see them right off in the distance as they're riding their bikes off through past like the grass or whatever. I can't remember what kind of plants there were, and then you see the camera still lingering around them as you see their figures sort of getting smaller and smaller away from the camera. And I'm like, man, a director that isn't Luca would just immediately cut the moment that they start biking, or like they take like 10 seconds of it and then boom, cut. Let's get to the next shot. But with Luca, he just stays on these shots, and it's not just to capture and admire the beauty of what we're seeing, but it's allowing us to stay within this world of where these characters are going through. So yeah, I think this is nothing else an incredible movie from that standpoint. And yeah, like I said before, Timothée Chalamet is pretty great. In fact, I would argue this is easily his best performance he's ever given, not just of his Oscar nominations, but of his entire career. Because I'll tell you what, it took me until this movie to be like, okay, this kid actually has talent. Maybe not a whole lot that I think is like that special or that incredible, but it's one of the few times where I'm like, he's actually giving a really good performance. And his, I talk about this too when I talk about film, performance, actors in general, where so long as you give them the right role, the right director, and the right script, they'll nail it out of the park. You see, whoever it is you could think of, like Alan Rickman was one we brought up on Sense and Sensibility, where you wouldn't really think he would be that good of a part to play that kind of role as like this charming, suave character playing the general, but he's actually really effective in that role. And I think with this case here with Timothée Chalamet, you already got the sort of this quiet, I guess, yeah, like very quiet, reserved, subtle performance that he's usually giving, and it works for this kind of character because he is slowly growing out of his childhood, adolescence, and becoming a man, especially with this idea of going through his first heartbreak, and I just think he's quite incredible in the film, honestly. But yeah, I could digress even more and more, but I want to have you talk a little bit more about your personal feelings on the film overall, whether it's the performances, what Luca's doing as a director, like where do you want to start with this?
Well, I want to start with how truthful it is.
Yeah.
And how that transpires to every aspect of this film. When you said patience, I totally agree with that, because this film captures the meandering nature. This film is not meandering, but there is this meandering nature of how these people exist on that summertime, and how that cultivate the aura of just intense, palpable desire. You see it on how the camera captures human skin. That's what I was referring to when I said that I was heating up when I was watching this film. It's not because I am in heat, but really because of how it captures an environment that would cultivate desire. Mm-hmm. An environment that would conspire for Elio to fall in love with Oliver, and vice versa. An environment that would make him vulnerable and not just have a sexual experience, but a very emotional one. Because this is one thing that I have noticed this time. Romance, as depicted on this film, is a two-party thing. But it is also a very isolating experience, because there are things happening in your body on a molecular level that are very small, and yet they change how you interact with people, they change how you see people, they change how you behave, they change how you see the world. And now that I have had the advantage of knowing everything, because this is a rewatch, I now am looking at what's happening rather than at what's going to happen next. And my gosh, this film is so good in the silences as it is with the spoken word. Because this film gives equal weight to both.
Yes.
In one conversation, when Elio was like, do you notice how arrogant he is when he says, later?
Yeah.
That later. Look at him. Of course, you will look at him. But then look at Michael Stuhlbarg and like, I think he's shy. Yeah. Look at that. Look at how Amira Kazar's eyes as Elio's mother just scans around and knows what's up. Look at the scene where the lights went out and she starts reading a story from the book on how there's like a prince or something, like someone who falls in love with someone and fights for it. And on how this film takes the time to stay in moments. Because that is then how you will get to the truth of the story. It's not just, when they started circling in the plaza and say, you know a lot of things, you know what things. It's not even, it's not a turning point even. It's an accumulation of the small details sprinkled around the whole film. That immature antagonism, that irritation, that restlessness, yeah. It's there. It's vivid, and this film made me laugh so much this time, because now I see everything that was
yeah.
everything that was leading up, and also I saw a lot of myself in it. That I'm
Yeah.
not even planning to be antagonistic, but I actually am antagonistic with someone that I am attracted to. Like, what the fuck? Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Whoop. What the
No, you're
heck?
good. You're good.
So, that is a very it's like a reawakening because when I first watched it, I was like more awakened of like how I feel about myself, how I feel about desire. Like I am okay with a lot of things that I thought were not supposed to be. I'm not supposed to be okay with. But with this one, it's more like an affirmation because it's 2017, 2018. I watched it. It's like 7 years. I've had a lot of love, lots of heartbreak, lots of sex, lots of things, and now it's more like, yeah, you got it right, you got it right, and it's my gosh, I mean, I'm at a loss of words for how this film holds up, uh, to me on a very emotional level and also on a very filmmaking level. That we'll talk Oscars later, but my gosh,
Yes, we shall.
4 nominations,
Yeah.
nah.
Yeah, we'll definitely talk about that later. In regards to the film itself, though, for me, I totally agree. Like, I noticed more of the subtleties in the performances by Timothy Chalamet, Michael Stuhlbarg, who's really good in this movie. Like, it's not just his scene that he has with him, which is still a wonderful scene towards the end with him on the couch, and he has his father-son moment, which is incredible, both from a writing standpoint and from an acting standpoint from Stuhlbarg. But yeah, you do notice more and more the subtleties of Stuhlbarg of like what's going on with this kid. Like I feel like he's doing this as like to spite Oliver, and to do it as like a way of antagonistic. Even with the he's questioning his son when they have it was like the parents had, it was like a gay couple that came over who were like a longtime friends, it looked like. And if I'm not mistaken, I think one of them was played by Andre Osman and
Yes.
the other one was played by Peter Spears. Am I correct in saying that?
I don't know what Peter Spears, but I know Adria Asiman is one.
He's one of the producers on this. He won an Oscar later on for Nomadland.
Woo!
So yeah, but no, seeing them, and he's telling Elio, it's like, what's wrong with you? Like, is it the fact that they're gay? Are you trying to be antagonistic toward them? Like, why aren't you wearing this shirt that they bought for you? Like, you should wear it for them. And he's like, no, I don't want to do it. It's like, what's going on with you? Seriously, what's going on? And he's scolding him, and yeah, and it, he is very much antagonistic of sorts with his character, and you do buy that. In regards to you were laughing a couple times about the film. I was too. Like, one of the big moments that got me that got a really good laugh out of me was when Elio notices Oliver is still in his bedroom, that he's like dead tired. He just got he just got to the place, and he's been sleeping for a couple hours, and then the maid of the house says, hey, dinner time is here. And then Elio goes into his room, he sneaks in, he grabs like a book, and then he tosses it on the ground on purpose. And then once Oliver gets it, he's like, oh crap, I gotta make sure I look like, oh sorry, I accidentally butterfingers. I died of laughter when I saw that scene. So I thought that was great. So yeah, and there were a couple scenes like that throughout where I'm like, okay, that was pretty funny. And yeah, and this movie doesn't have much of a story in terms of like a typical narrative structure, so to speak, that you'd get from another Hollywood film, or even that of focusing on a character confronting their own sexuality. You don't have the, we need to hide our secret of us being gay, or me, questioning my sexuality. Otherwise, if my parents find out, then I'll get a scolding or whatever. And that never happens. And I really appreciated that both, according to the book, the Andre Osman was not really interested in telling that kind of story. It sounded more like he was more interested in having you experience within the characters what they're feeling within the moment. And even James Ivory, when he adapted this novel, he had even stated early on when he came on board to write the screenplay, because originally he was going to co-direct it with Luca Guadagnino. And and he said, all right, I'll co-direct it with Luca, but I have to provide my own screenplay for it, because that's how I guess that's what he want, that's, I guess, his new method nowadays, is if he's going to direct something, he might as well just have a screenplay with him. And then I guess the financiers or whoever it was involved with the behind-the-scenes stuff, they said, all right, we're not interested in that, in you guys co-directing, so James Ivory just reverted back to him as to his writing-only credit, I guess, and maybe like an executive producing credit I think he got. And it was interesting to see how James knew from the beginning, even regardless of what role, whether he was going to co-direct or not, he knew from the beginning the story had to end at the fireplace scene. That emotional relief of sorts that he had to get, like, that Elio had to get in order for him to grow up again from that adolescent childhood mind to him becoming a man and learning about his first heartbreak, because that really is the emotional, conclusion of sorts. Where you get this release. It's almost like, in a weird way, not. I mean, there's still like tension building even in the first half of the film, like, is Elio falling for Oliver? Why is he feeling this way? And then the two meet up, and then by the end of the film, they break it off for obvious reasons. But, and I'm really glad that James Ivory recognized that when he was adapting this novel, it's like, this needs to end here. Because apparently the novel actually goes beyond the story. Like, we actually see Oliver and Elio meeting up later as adults, and that is interesting to see on paper, but for what the story is about, which is Elio becoming a man of sorts, it works in that, like, okay, we got to end it here, and again, the whole point of it is that, on the outside, we see this as like a summer fling, with Elio and Oliver together, or even Elio and the girl he was with in the film. We see them as like, oh, it's just a summer fling, whatever. But in reality, it like to these characters personally, it's not just a summer fling. It felt like to them, like they were in heaven. They were literally in their own little their own little world, and I really was impressed with. I was impressed with what Luca and James Ivory and all these other people were able to do so well and capture that so beautifully.
Yeah, it is so important that the film wasn't plot driven,
Yeah.
because that's not how you cultivate emotions with this kind of story. It is in the unexpected small turns. It is in the minutia of interactions. It is in the things unsaid. It is said. It is in the passing in the hallway, the glance at the connecting room, and I so understand why this film was then made outside of Hollywood. I mean,
Yeah.
because it would not have worked with that kind of thing. I mean, we know it's a time-bound story.
Yeah.
He's there for the summer. It is an internship that would end. That's all we know. But it doesn't use that temporal element to manipulate or force emotions out of the story. This film earns all of its emotional beats because it stayed loyal to its characters, and that is in the writing. I would say that is in the writing. I think I have a copy of the screenplay. I think during that award season they made us the screenplay available, and there was the James Ivory version with all of the narration that's supposed to be the voiceovers. I still haven't read it. I still also haven't read the novel. But then to have Luca Guadagnino step in, and within, I've only seen I Am Love when I watched Call Me By Your Name, but I didn't make the instant
When you
connection.
first saw this.
When I first saw I Am Love,
Okay.
but I didn't make the connection right away. But then after watching it, I haven't seen Suspiria yet, but I've seen Bones and All. I've seen Challengers. He understands desire. He
Yeah.
understands sex and sex as part of psychology, how that affects narrative, how that is crucial to character, and then you get these actors. I would Armie Hammer is very good here. Michael Stuhlbarg is my supporting actor, my favorite supporting actor of this year, and especially that experience is enriched on a rewatch because then you see the small details and lead up to that monologue, that heart it's not heartbreaking, but like a hearty monologue. Amir Kazar, Estegarel, all the cast, but it goes back to Timothy Chalamet, who I think is a little bit too perfectly cast, to the point that everything else that I've seen him afterwards is like, oh, he's good there, but it's not Call Me by Your Name.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
it's like that. I mean, I love him in Little Women. He is very good in Beautiful Boy.
Yeah.
He is also very good in Lady Bird the same year. Um, he's good in the Dune series. Uh, he's okay in A Complete Unknown.
Yeah.
He's quite fun in Don't Look Up. Let's talk about that film.
No,
But
let's not.
But nothing beats a Jet 2 Holiday. No, nothing beats what he gave in this performance. It's like the perfect age, perfect casting, perfect look. I mean, I had an entire Timothée Chalamet phase. Oh my gosh. It's in a diary that I'm holding right now from 2018.
Yeah.
It's like, I could not believe that, also Guadagnino understands beauty. On how beauty is not just aesthetic, it is crucial to understanding narrative, crucial to
Yes.
understanding the experience of the characters. Timothée Chalamet is fucking stunning, but it would not have worked without that openness, that vulnerability, that tentative restlessness that populates his scenes, that insecurity with Oliver. Like, is he so antagonistic with Oliver because he is resistant to the idea that maybe I like this guy? Even look at the first scene. He's so confident. What is that? Why is he antagonistic with is it uncles? Or family friend? The Sonny and Cher.
There might have been like family friends.
Yeah.
I think.
Why would he
I
be
can't remember.
insecure? Why would he be antagonistic with an openly gay couple?
Yeah.
And I watch it now, and I understand it.
Yeah.
It's so confronting when you have people so sure of themselves, and like, we're gay, and with Oliver, he doesn't even say it right away, but like, he's sure of himself. And Elio is someone who is discovering himself. He thinks he is confident, but he's not, and he does a lot of things to assure his confidence, but yet it's actually futile, like the song "Futile Devices."
Futile. Yeah.
Yeah,
Futile
and
Devices,
then
yeah.
to see this film, have Elio sit in those moments of discomfort. Like, is Oliver home yet? He's not, and yet the Futile Devices just keeps on playing in the background.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh my gosh, who would have thought that not cutting away to these moments would get you to the essence of why would we connect with this film so much. I mean, I even know there's this one scene where they stopped by an old woman. They asked for water.
Yes.
I think the studios wanted to cut it, but Luca fought for it. I don't know why. I forgot the reason, but I understand it. It adds texture to the story. It adds an understanding of why somewhere in northern Italy. Why Elio? Why Oliver? Why the Perlmans? Why Summer? And it's encapsulated in this, I called it in the diary, perfect film.
Yeah.
So, I'll say more about how I felt about the time, but later. But this is a film that really encapsulates truth and also knows how to do that. Not a lot of filmmakers are that perceptive. I mean, when we talk of great direction, we usually think of like big set pieces and long takes and all that. It's impressive.
We shot this in IMAX.
We shot it on IMAX. The whole film is on IMAX, and we did
a
multiple takes.
12-minute sequence with like a 70mm camera.
Yeah, it's amazing, sure, but it's not every day that they also meet filmmakers that know how to capture the smallest of moments and make it cinematic, might I say.
Yeah, Luca definitely, even, before I even saw, even just watching this alone, he's able to make it cinematic enough to where, again, I was invested enough with the movie. And much like Zone of Interest, there's enough going on within the story from a technical standpoint and even how the characters react to each other and their situations they're in. I'm invested in it just enough. And I should also point out, because you mentioned one of the songs, Futile Devices, I want to bring up the music because I think the music is captured really, really well within the story, and the not just the music created by Sufjan Stevens. I think I might have mucked up his
Yeah.
name, but he had done Mystery of Love and Visions of Gideon, which, by the way, that song Visions of Gideon is played twice. Once when
Yes.
Elio and Oliver. I didn't even notice this until this rewatch, but it's played when they meet up at midnight and they're about to go in Oliver's room to have sex.
To fuck.
Yeah, yeah, to rock the bed. And yeah, so what was I gonna say? Yeah, so we see that, and it's only an instrumental version of it though. Like
Yeah.
so we see this like them starting to form their love for each other of sorts with Oliver and Elio, and then it's played again at the fireplace scene with the full lyrics of him experiencing heartbreak and having to say goodbye to his first love, and the mystery of love sequence, beautifully placed, beautiful song, incredible. And then for Futile Devices, which I think it was a remix of it
Yeah.
to adjust to how Elio is feeling within the moment. And it's used perfectly. Even the other song choices used throughout the film, it captures the time period of what the story set in, but it also makes sense for the kind of music that these people would listen to, especially when they're out on the dance floor, when they see Oliver dancing with some lady, random girl, and it goes from like lady, 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 and then it transitions into Love My Way, and it's really, really good. I should also point out too, and I wonder if this was in like this must have been like a what do you call it? Like a not accidental, but intentional tribute to James Ivory. The film is very much presented, and it's very much presented like a James Ivory production of sorts, like from how it's directed, and it works really, really well within the comforts of what Luca Guadagnino is known for doing so well. Again, capturing this world without having it to resort too much on a lot of jump cuts, a lot of flashy editing, flashy photography, and I was really impressed with that level of it. But yeah, music is incredibly important with this movie, because if you don't use music well enough to articulate how you're supposed to have your audience feel within the moment, it feels disingenuous. So like if I just had like a random action scene go on in whatever big budget blockbuster, it's like if you're going to use music, it should be used to complement the movie, not say here's how you should feel within the moment. But with what Luca does with the music, again, it is very much fitting for the movie, but in a way it is like, yeah, this is pretty much how you're supposed to feel to it, but not overtly blaring it in your face. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think it's a beauty of um that's why I also advocate for like a music supervision Oscar, because it's
Yeah.
an art form in itself. That in this film specifically, where Elio and Oliver do not say a lot of things out loud, specifically, aside from their own discomforts, is also of the time and place. The milieu does not allow them to be freely, does not allow them to feel safe, to be free to express who they are, to even feel that it is possible to express who they are. Then the music is actually serving as a dialogue of sorts to how
Yes.
they're feeling, to where they are in the say right now. And I would also, aside, you mentioned already the beautiful Sufjan Stevens songs, which he's also a gay artist, so he would know a thing or two about gay experience. But that first music cue that the fleeting piano piece, like Un bac sous l'océan by André Laplante, it's like it captures the fleeting enchantment of that experience. And I have to search that because when I had my old phone, all of the soundtrack from Call Me by Your Name are in there, and I'm just playing it. Uh, I'm sick with this film. I'm sick with this film, not off this film.
Good.
That it is a very experiential film. It is. It you have the you have the music that captures different states of being in love. And actually, I noticed it when I watched it, and on the first time, that Visions of Gideon already played in the first scene.
Yep.
But it now makes sense because it played in the ending as Elias experiencing heartbreak. It also played when they decided that they would finally deal with this directly and have sex, and by in turn accept that, okay, yeah, there's something between us. And that inevitability, that once you accept you are in love with someone, you accept the inevitable heartbreak that would come with it. So that's why I think it's so significant that the moment they decided that we're gonna do this, that's already playing in its echoes. Because with love, you accept it with the heartbreak that would come with it. The editing is, it's so precisely cut. Sometimes it's a hard cut, sometimes it's a dissolve. It all makes sense. Sometimes there are shots that just wouldn't cut at all. Sometimes the cut are so abrupt, and like it keeps you on your toes, but not in a way to distract you from the slowness of that idea, but on how the smallest of actions can be peaks or valleys of one's emotions. It is very deliberate. And the cinematography by Sayumbu Muktiprom. Oh my gosh. How you capture night and day and nature and human and joy and sadness and I would say this film really influenced me on how I start to look at things, especially with desire. I I'm years into pre-production for the short film that I'm making, but I have Call Me by Your Name in my mind. Like that's my reference of like, how do you capture, how do you translate desire, how do you translate longing on screen?
And to
Look at
do it
this
with
film.
showing and not a lot of telling too.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's really hard to do, honestly.
Yep.
Yeah, that's why I give Luca Guadagnino and his crew like all the more credit to be like, you guys did this in a really good way, without having it feel so stale or boring. Um, visually at least. One of my favorite shots in the movie, and there's tons of great shots in the movie that the cinematographer and Luca did. It's when after Elio gets sick from their trip to Rome, I think, or I can't remember the location they went to together, just him and Oliver. And Oliver looks over Elio while Elio's sleeping in bed, and we get these like red neon, distortion colors of flashes
The thermal camera, is it?
thermal cameras. Okay,
Yeah.
yeah, that's what it was. And there was one shot with it looked like the two of them were holding like very like caressing of each other's bodies out in
Yeah.
public. And I'm like, it was a quick flash, but I was like, that's a really gorgeous shot in the movie, and it really well, like from the framing, from how it's lit, how it's shot. I thought it was really good. And even the shot with Elio waiting at the train station and seeing Oliver go away, and that whole sequence was incredible from how it was shot. I thought that was great. But yeah, yeah, it's a terrific movie overall. So I have two questions I want to ask, because I think we pretty much went through most of my points that I wanted to make for my notes, at least that I have here. There's two things I want to ask you. One, when did you think Elio's parents found out about Oliver and him being a couple?
I think Mr. Perlman knew early on when he kept talking about like, do you notice that Oliver's like arrogant? Do you notice that Oliver? I'm sorry, that's me right now. I can't stop talking to
Yeah.
my mom about the person that I love. Like, I'm giving myself away, am I?
Yeah.
So I think that I think Mr. Perlman knew earlier, which leads me to a counter question. Do you think Mr. Perlman wasn't straight?
I think Mr. Perlman was likely conflicted with his sexuality. If not, then he knew someone from his own life who was conflicted with their own sexuality.
Hmm.
Uh, because even Mr. Perlman said, Samuel is the character, aka Mr. Perlman. He had stated on the couch to Elliot at the end that, if his dad had found out that he was conflicting with his own sexuality, then his parents would have been incredibly disapproving of it. But because he's the parent and not his dad, uh, it seemed like he was much more forgiving of it. And yeah, I don't know. It did seem like maybe Sam was conflicted with his own sexuality, and then over the course, it's just like, all right, now I gotta become straight. Yeah, I don't know.
What was your second question?
So my second question was: is there anything in your diary that you wanted to bring up that is appropriate for the podcast that won't get me kicked off of any sites?
All right. Well, I don't think
Like,
I have. Yeah.
yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Well. Oh my gosh. Well, this one was interesting. February 7 because I think they did like a like a live Q&A on Facebook, but it was actually pre-recorded.
Huh.
I stayed up until 4 a.m. just to watch it, and it's just 20 minutes of Luca Guadagnino and Timothy Chalamet. And it's pre-recorded, 20 minutes. Anyway, January 23, I said, I want to be Elias Beach. Okay,
Okay, all right, all right.
but-
Careful with where you go with this, buddy. Careful where you go with this. Because I knew the fucking peach scene would get brought up, okay? We are not going into specifics with this. And for
No.
anyone who's listening right now, if you know the scene we're referring to, we will just leave it at that, okay?
Okay.
I am not getting demonetized or getting kicked off my channel because of this shit, okay?
I'm not gonna put you in jeopardy, but I will say that I'm lucky that in my generation of me coming to terms with my own self, that this film came along. I think we're lucky that despite the pushback against representation, that we're getting more and more in film and TV. But there was once a time when people had to look to Victim in 1961, to look to The Boys in the Band from 1970, to look to Making Love in 1982, or Parting Glances in 1986, or to look at Longtime Companion in 1990, Philadelphia 1993, Brokeback Mountain 2005, Pariah 2011,
Mm-hmm.
The Kids Are Alright 2010, Moonlight 2016, that in 2017, that this film came along, it just matters so much. I know I'm not the only person who thinks that. I mean, there is a Call Me by Your Name hive out there who,
Oh, yeah.
that worships this film, thinks Timothée Chalamet hasn't done anything better other than this, which is me, who still watches this film with loving eyes despite everything that has transpired with Armie Hammer, and I get that. That this film mattered. This film probably saved lives. This film made people accept themselves for who they are. And so with that, I'm gonna read this is quick. It's nothing that would put you in prejudice. It
Thank
feels
you.
so. January 22. This is when I watched it. The sneak peek. I really rushed 3 hours travel to the cinema that I was gonna watch it in the city. It feels so sensual, tangible, erotic, organic, and real. Heck, I felt every moment of it, and I felt attacked by this film. Every nuance adds up. The joy of falling in love, the uncertainty of feeling attraction, slowly creeping within, the childish jealousy, the immature provocation, the teenage impulse, the eagerness, the inescapability of letting go of a short-lived friendship, the slow destruction of the what ifs into the what could have been. I am in love with every inch and every minute of this film. I feel lost and found within while watching this film. I want to cry with Elio, laugh with Oliver, talk to Mr. Perlman, and make love with both of them. My senses feel awakened. I became more conscious of my emotions. It connected with me so deeply. The ending left me cornered, attacked, and then injured. I will treasure the experience of watching this film forever. Perfect, perfect, perfect. I'm writing this whole while listening to Visions of Gideon. Probably a bad idea, but whatever. Good thing he didn't reply. It's because I asked someone to watch this with me. I'm glad I watched this alone. Like I said, um, romance, but especially queer romance, there is something so deeply life changing about it. Because, in as much as it is about two people connecting, it's about you confronting your own self, your own prejudices, your own insecurities.
You're coming out of your shell.
Yeah, so it's a very vulnerable experience. And to have it on film and for me to be able to see it, I really treasure it, and that's why I haven't rewatched it since 2018, and that's why I'm so glad that this was the perfect moment because, like I said, I'm in love with someone, and that person knows it already. So,
Yeah.
thank you for the invitation.
Yeah, sure. Like I said, I mean, this was one that I thought I wanted to cover at least over the summer. Like, it would be really odd if I covered this during like the winter.
You're having your own Italian summer, huh?
Yeah, it's not as fun as you think it would be, but yeah. But yeah, no, I'm grateful I revisited this, if nothing else, to prove to everyone out there, just to say, hey guys, I do like Timothy Chalamet as an actor, even though it's very very few roles. I do think the kid has talent, and I say this over and over again. So long as you give the actor the right role, the right director, and the right script, and it works within the limitations of said actor, whoever it is. It could be Chalamet. It could be whoever you could think of. It will work. Like, if you could believably buy them, at least a part of them, as that role, and you're able to work and and fix how to adjust the actor to fit all the other parts of the role really well, then yeah, they'll give a really good performance. And in the case of Timothée Chalamet, he got his lead actor nomination, one of 2 so far. So yeah, but yeah, no, anytime. I'm very grateful that you came on for the podcast, and yeah, that's it. No, I'm kidding. No, we're gonna get into the award section right now. I you'd think I was gonna let Juan come on and have us just talk about the movie and that's it. No. You are not familiar with this show.
The peach.
Yeah, no, enough of that. Enough of that. We are not going into any more details than that, buddy. So anyways, so Call Me By Your Name premiered at the Sundance Film Festival and made its way to various film festivals such as Toronto International Film Festival, New York Film Fest, and the AFI Fest, where it gained positive reactions from these events. Eventually, it was given a limited theatrical run in the United States that started November 24th, 2017. And on a production budget of $3.5 million, it made back roughly $42 million worldwide, and was Luca's biggest box office draw he had at the time until Challenger, which was like $99 million on a budget of like $50 million. So, yeah. Regardless, this film was Call Me By Your Name was nominated from both the American Film Institute and National Board of Review's list of top 10 films of 2017. It also got 4 Oscar nominations that included Best Picture, Lead Actor Timothée Chalamet, Chalamet, Adapted Screenplay, and Original Song, Mystery of Love. Timothy's Oscar nomination made him the 3rd youngest lead actor nod in history, and James Ivory's Adapted Screenplay win marked him as the oldest person or oldest man to win an Academy Award across all categories. The record had previously been held by the late Ennio Morricone for original score on The Hateful Eight. And James Ivory also won the Writers Guild, the BAFTA, the Critics' Choice Award, and the USC Scripter Prizes for his work as well. In the Adapted Screenplay category, the film won up against The Disaster Artist, Logan, Molly's Game, all 3 of which, by the way, you could check out on my podcast for my thoughts extensively on those films. And it was also up against Mudbound, which was like one of the first, if not the first, Netflix production to get an above the line nomination of some sorts.
Yes, it is.
And okay, perfect. So yeah, and yeah, this became one of the few times where we had seen a writing lineup have more than 2 lone writing nominations in the field. So why was it that Call Me by Your Name only managed to win the lone writing Oscar? Like what? Actually, come to think of it, let's take a step back. Why didn't Call Me by Your Name do better in terms of nominations when it could have easily gotten more?
I read lots of pieces about that because I was also disappointed that it only got 4 nominations. Earlier in the season, it was thought of as one of the major contenders. One say that Sony Pictures Classics very release model of like really like just running qualifying run and then slowly rolling it out. That's a hit or miss, I would say. Uh, there was much anticipation for Call Me by Your Name back in January in the Sundance, and yet they released it in November.
Hmm.
So, and it was very slow release. I even could not make sense of it that how popular this film is, that it only made that amount of money.
Yeah.
I think, I don't know. It's not a women talking situation where I could immediately say that it should have been released earlier, but
Yeah.
maybe it could have really been released October. Or do you think it would have been like a good summer release? I don't know. I'm not sure about that. Um, because I understand the model. It's about building word of mouth.
Yeah.
But if it's building for way too long, you don't want the word of mouth to die, even you know if it's taking too long. Uh, Another thing is that, and I've read this with some anonymous sources, that Moonlight winning Best Picture kind of affected it as well
Oh.
because there were some voters who said we just did gay last year,
Oh my God.
so it became a lesser priority. Um, Looking at the field, for example, you have Shape of Water, Three Billboard. No. For example, it could have easily gotten director, supporting actor. Initially, earlier in the season, people were thinking, what if it gets 2 supporting actor nominations? Because there were lots of films that could have gotten 2 nominations.
I remember
Uh,
the talks about that. Yeah.
yeah, Armie Hammer was on the verge of being a bigger star than he was at the time. Michael Stuhlbarg was thought to be like a shoe in, but then Michael Stuhlbarg had a great year with The Shape of Water and The Post, so it made sense for him to get like a career great
Nomination.
year nomination. Luca Guadagnino with Sony Pictures Classics, a director nomination. He's starting to become more well known. I think this is his big break in, at least in the United States. Cinematography was on the table, like, and it just didn't get those. I mean, if I would be looking at it, I don't know how. Of course, it's only for fun, and it's always a per year thing, but it's hard for me to see Conclave as an 8 nomination film and Call Me by Your Name was just a 4 nomination film. I would have thought a bare minimum 6.
For Call Me by Your Name.
Yes, picture, actor, supporting actor, adapted screenplay, cinematography,
Cinematography, definitely.
song, and I don't know if there was a talk of it getting 2 nominations in cinematography because Mysteries of Love was definitely the push. But Visions of Gideon was Timothy's big scene. You know how that turned out with La La Land the previous year? Of like
Yeah.
you have the more well known contender and then you have the big scene song. Guadagnino was definitely on the cusp, I would say, because that year you had Del Toro in The Shape of Water getting his coronation moment. You have Jordan Peele and Greta Gerwig exciting a lot of passion with Lady Bird and Get Out. You have who else? You have Christopher Nolan getting his first nomination because, surprise, surprise, it's his first project that aligned with the Oscars tastes, war films.
War films. Yeah.
And then you have the surprise um, fan thread who did so
PTA.
well with nominations.
My boy.
But no
Yeah.
screenplay.
Yeah, no screenplay nod. Holy shit. Yeah, that was awesome. can't believe it. I will definitely talk more about that original screenplay lineup when I get to Get Out later this year. I have a guest on to do that tentatively. I won't say who it is, but yeah, I'm really excited to talk about Get Out with what happened there. Yeah, you're right though. Like, I'm glad that they held off on Call Me by Your Name and they didn't drop it in the summer, because if it had been dropped in the summer, I don't think a lot of people would have gotten around to it, and it would have had to build off of word of mouth from just Sundance. Whereas you have TIFF, you have New York, AFI Fest. At least it has something going for it with Call Me by Your Name. But yeah, man, it's a shame, because this could have gotten more nominations. At the barest minimum, they should have gotten in for cinematography. Like, why the fuck didn't it do it?
What were the nominees? The nominees
It was
were
Dunkirk, Blade Runner, Shape of
Runner.
Water, Mudbound, and then Darkest Hour.
Darkest Hour.
Yeah, Darkest
No,
Hour got
I don't
in
hate that film, but
yeah, but like
it
Bruno
didn't need a
Delbonnel
cinematography nomination.
but Bruno Delbonnel was like a known name DP on director of photography on the movie.
Yeah,
or
and
from
Sayong
the
Mamakdi
film
Prom is
industry.
not, because he's mostly worked with Apichapong Versatile in this film, so
Yeah,
too bad.
so, yeah. So my other question then to ask, going back to what I was going to say earlier, what happened with this adapted screenplay lineup? Like, did you think anything else was really on the cusp of getting in? Why did we get the field that we ended up getting? What happened here?
Okay, so first of all, a year where a lot of the contenders were original. A
Yeah.
lot of Best Picture contenders were original. So Call Me by Your Name is the default ordained frontrunner, because this is an era, the expanded ballot era, unfortunately, and as much as I love this era, because you are bullshitting me if you say that you cannot fill 10 slots in Best Picture.
Yeah.
There are 10 great films per year. It's just a matter of like what's the Academy's taste at the time. In this case, a sliding scale. Still half bullshit, but whatever. Call Me by Your Name is the only adapted one here, right?
Yeah, of the Best Picture lineup, Call Me by Your Name's the only one from adapted. Yeah.
Yeah, because even the runners up, I, Tonya, original. The Big Sick, original. So there it's just a lot of original films. Wow. For an industry that would struggle with dealing with anything original in the next few years.
Yeah.
So this is a lineup filled with original screenplays, and then so Call Me by Your Name and others. That's how you would see the race. You have Mudbound, which I believe Netflix is about to get the perfect recipe for a campaign. They almost did it with here. It got 4 nominations. It was nominated at SAG. There was enthusiasm for that film, buzz-wise, that award season. The following year, they got Roma with 10 nominations. And in the following year, you got The Irishman with 10 or 11 nominations.
10 nominations and
10,
the Marriage Story.
And Marriage Story with 7.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Netflix was still about to perfect the recipe for a good awards campaign. They were coming off of Beasts of No Nation. They kind of fumbled that because, they still didn't know how to do it. Mudbound was a day and date release. They still didn't do like the delayed, like a 3-week window, 1-month window. But they still got those 4 nominations. So Mudbound is in number 2. So now you have to scramble. I would say whatever, Molly's Game, because Molly's Game was a late breaking release from Aaron Sorkin. That was also a last minute Best Picture contender. It got a PGA nomination, and I think it also got.
Yeah.
Did it get Jessica Chastain? Only Globes, right? Or even.
It
SAG?
it got Golden Globe. She missed SAG.
Yeah.
We talked about it on Molly's Game episode.
Yeah.
What happened there?
So that was also like a last minute thing, but it's Aaron Sorkin, so.
Yeah. He's like a big name director.
Yeah, even
Or
if
writer,
the
I
film,
should say.
even if the film fumbled, not awards wise, there was enough space for it. So then you get,
The adapted screenplay.
Molly's
nod.
Game, yeah.
Yeah.
And then the Disaster Artist. The writers, I believe, were the writers from 500 Days of Summer, right?
Yep.
Michael Weber and Scott Dustadter.
Yep. Yeah, you got it.
There was a remember names. And then it was a good run for that film until days in the Oscar voting, allegations against James Franco came out of sexual harassment. But he
Yeah.
just won the Golden Globe, so the film is a contender in a major category. So you have eyes on that as well. For the fifth slot, I was thinking All the Money in the World because there was so much hype around it just because of the behind the scenes thing, and that happened with Christopher Plummer, getting a supporting actor nomination, and then you also had Wonder, which at the time just felt that it had this support, and it got a makeup nomination.
And
So
a
I
Critics' Choice nod for adapted
Probably.
screenplay.
Yeah, exactly. So we're thinking, is it all the money in the world or Wonder? Ah, it's Logan,
Yeah.
which was a surprise, but a very deserved surprise, I would say.
Yeah, and not to try to repeat what I already said with Logan, I think what helped with that film get in for adapted screenplay, much like Molly's Game, is that Scott Frank is a well-regarded, maybe not as many nominations as Aaron Sorkin or has done as many like popular movies like Sorkin has, but Scott Frank had already gotten a previous nomination for Out of Sight.
Yep.
And by him getting that previous nomination, it allowed him to get into the club and got James Mangold his first nomination. And this wouldn't be the first and only. This wouldn't be the only time Mangold was in the race. He came back years later when Timothée Chalamet got in for A Complete Unknown.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah. So and this is also something I even brought up with the Top Gun Maverick discussion, is that sometimes when you have a well-known, well-regarded, well-respected writer who is a previous nominee / winner, if they're in a film that's well-liked by the Academy, they'll just nominate it because of the writer. It doesn't matter if the structure is that great. It doesn't matter if the dialogue is that great. They'll still nominate them just because. But it worked out with Logan because it was a pretty damn good movie, I thought. And definitely easily probably one of the best X-Men movies we had of that Fox era for sure. So, yeah. But, yeah, I don't know. How did you feel about James Ivory, even though it was kind of a not much competition, kind of an easy win? How did you feel about James Ivory finally getting his Oscar after all these years? Were you pretty happy?
Well, I was happy because of the film.
Yeah.
I didn't have much baggage at the time. I think I've only seen Howard's End, and I didn't understand it.
Oh.
But now
You're one of
looking at
those people.
It was no. I mean, I've seen The Remains of the Day. I haven't seen A Room with a View yet.
Okay.
But I think it meant a lot to me because of the film, but at the same time because he's like the oldest Oscar winner.
Yeah.
You still win Oscars at that age.
Yeah.
That's inspiring, and I think I just took it with that. It's I'm like channeling James Ivory right now. He was wearing a shirt with Timothée Chalamet's face when he won the Oscar.
I forgot about that.
So yeah, it was more inspiring in that way. But then looking back, because I also haven't seen Maurice yet, that he has had a history of writing these romances that with lots of repressed emotions, that lots of things unsaid. He's so good at those. For him to win an Oscar for doing that in this generation, you don't get that a lot. For example,
No,
you don't
you
get Christopher
don't.
Nolan winning an Oscar for The Dark Knight. You see him winning for
No.
Oppenheimer.
Yeah.
You don't see. That's why, for example, like a Michelle Yeoh winning Best Actress for Everything Everywhere All at Once. You can debate who's your favorite, but she's an action star who won for an action-driven film.
Mm-hmm.
Jamie Lee Curtis, who built her career on genre films, she won for a genre performance in a genre film. You don't get that a lot. You get a lot of actors doing biopics because the genres that they're thriving in are not Oscar friendly. You see a Sandra Bullock taking on The Blind Side because that's Oscar friendly, because her romantic comedies aren't Oscars material. So for James Ivory to win for something which he is good at, great at, known for, At that age, for what would become one of the most important films for many queer people at this generation, perfect timing.
Yeah. Also, I failed to mention, I should bring this up. When you were talking about Marriage Story, it was actually 6 nominations it got, not 7.
Six
But
nominations. Oh
yeah,
well.
but that's fine. You're good. Yeah, you'll be fine. Yeah. Only because I had a feeling in the back of my mind, like someone in the comments would be like, Juan Carlos Ollana was wrong. There was actually 6
Yeah.
nominations. Derpy derp, you know.
I,
Yes.
I I think I counted Alan Alda, who should have been nominated for supporting actor. But
Yeah, he was good.
6 nominations.
Yeah.
I'll take
But
it
yeah,
over
no.
3 leads in
Yeah.
supporting actor.
Yeah, I don't know, but yeah, no, I'm very grateful, like to go back to James Ivory though. I'm really happy that he got his Oscar for adapted screenplay. Because I think at the time I think I just saw Howard's End, and
Yeah.
I remember it being pretty good for what it was. I'd like to revisit it again though, and I haven't seen Remains of the Day.
So good,
So-
so good.
I know, and Room of the View is good too. I watched that over the pandemic with my grandma, so yeah, it's got a great performance by Daniel Day-Lewis, who has apparently got another film coming out later this year, I think.
Anemone?
I think so.
By his
So.
son, or directed by his son.
Yeah. Nepotism. But yeah, no, yeah, is there anything else you wanted to bring up in regards to the awards prospects for Call Me By Your Name, what it should have won, things like that?
Well, it got lucky that Oscar voters are usually lazy. That they
Yeah.
defaulted to the Best Picture nominee in adapted screenplay. But I would reiterate, picture, director, actor, supporting actor twice, supporting actress, adapted screenplay, cinematography, film editing, production design, costume design, makeup and hair, 2 songs. I have it at 14 nominations in my own awards. I don't
Do you-
fucking care. I even have
do-
casting and music supervision. So 16 nominations there.
Do you have it in like visual effects as well?
Oh yeah, because they had to digitally remove the scrotum that was hanging out of the shorts.
Forgot about
So-
that.
Yeah, look at
Yeah,
what
so there you
I
go.
think their balls are hanging out because the shorts were too short, so they had to digitally remove it. I'd take that as a best visual effects nominee.
Yeah. Take that, Kong Skull Island.
Yeah.
This should have gotten in for visual effects over your shitty film.
Yeah, and production design for the peach that was leaking.
Yeah. Okay. And all right. I think we should. I think that's our side to wrap this up. Anyways. Yeah. No. Other than that, I'm really happy that I closed the gap on this, closed the loop on this, and finally went back to covering this on my podcast, because I had hinted in the Disaster Artist episode that I was going to come back around maybe down the road back to this year of lineups, this 2017 lineup, and yeah, at least I completed the adapted screenplay one. But yeah, it's a richly deserved nomination and win for Call Me By Your Name. I'm really happy it won the Oscar. At least it can go. At least James Ivory was able to go home with an Oscar, because yeah, someone like him, even when he got nominated for director, I mean, I get it, he lost, understandably, to the years that he ended up going up against. It was like Platoon was one, the second one was Unforgiven, third one was Schindler's List. So it made sense as to why he lost those years, which ironically enough, yeah, those are Best Picture winners also too. That's weird. Okay, anyways, it made sense, but I'm still happy they were able to give him an Oscar for this. So yeah.
And I think this film is a great, it being a screenplay winner, it teaches a lot about writing is not just about the dialogue.
Yeah.
It's also about the lack of it. And
Yep.
you have to, it's good writing. It comes from good writing, and then if you have great writing with a great director with great acting, you make a once in a generation film like Call Me By Your Name.
Definitely. Oh yeah, sure. Yeah, no, and I as I said before, I definitely recommend watching this movie if you haven't already. I mean, like we said, we had a spoiler discussion, but if you've already made it to this point in the episode and are still curious in watching it, I'm like, yeah, sure, why not? Go ahead and watch it, and yeah, I would recommend it for sure. If nothing else, just for Timothée Chalamet's performance and it's a good introductory movie for Luca Guadagnino, I would say. I would say Challengers is the more accessible one for audiences, but I personally prefer this side of Luca Guadagnino than I do Challengers. And I do like Challengers, don't get me wrong, but that's just
I
me.
don't love it.
Oh, okay. I guess we,
Uh-oh.
yeah. I guess we could rant about. I guess we could bicker about this off air. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Anyways, so before we officially sign off, I just want to say, despite the tons of internet connections and problems we had trying to get this whole damn episode going, I just want to say thank you so much, Juan, for coming onto the show to discuss Call Me by Your Name. Is there anything you'd like to plug in on where listeners can follow you along after the episode is finished?
Please follow me on all socials at Juan Carlos Ojano because I am in pre-production for a few years now with a short film called Closing Time. You can search it Closing Time PH. We're working hard on that film still to get made. And once it happens, then you'll see how there's a lot of fingerprints of Call Me by Your Name all over that film. And then you could also follow because I also am a film critic. Am I still? I watch a lot of films because I have a podcast called The 1 Inch Barrier. We're gonna be doing an episode on the because in that podcast we review all of the films that won Best International Feature Film at the Academy Awards. We've reviewed all of it already. Matt has been one of the first guys who came to the show and really believed in it and stuck with it since the beginning of the pandemic. So I'm glad to have that on the record. And now we're gonna be doing I'm Still Here in the year 2024. So the adorable Cats of Flo, the darkness of The Girl with the Needle, the injustice being done in The Seed of the Sacred Fig, and Emilia Perez.
I think you're going to say the injustice done with Emilia Perez is like, how dare that film got nominated, but and Emilia Perez. It's like, okay, good.
And the whole year in general, because my podcast is all about appreciating films in subtitles. You should not be scared of it. If you're a straight person listening right now and you still haven't watched Call Me by Your Name, don't be scared of queer films. Don't be scared of anything that's not directly about you. Don't be scared of films not in your own language. Film is a great gateway to all cultures, all experiences, and my podcast serves that corner of the world, a film world where people want to watch films in subtitles. So good that it's more common now to watch things in subtitles. It's make it less destigmatized, I would say. But we're gonna be doing that, and then my writing in the film experience. Still write sometimes, and personally, you can follow my journey as a theater actor. So let's go. Thank you again. Thank you, Matt, for giving me the opportunity to watch this film again.
Yeah, sure.
This is a life-changing film, and honestly, I didn't know I needed to watch this again.
Yeah.
So
yeah, well, I guess that's the birthday gift from me that's now passed on to you. It's like, here you go. And for the record, anyone who's listening, I've already been on Juan's show for 2 episodes with I think I was just using
3.
the mic from my laptop, and it wasn't even that good of a mic, and it's like, yeah, okay. So
didn't you do more than 2?
No, I just did the 2 episodes, The Salesman and War and Peace. That's it.
Didn't you do a bonus episode yet?
No, I haven't.
Okay.
Yeah. But I will say, though, I try to put much commitment into this podcast in of itself, the one that I started with Lone Screenplay Nominee Podcast. I don't nearly have as much energy or effort or even going out of my way to find even the films, in contention for some of these categories. Like, if it's nominated and if I have a chance to watch it, I'll watch it. But for the most part, if it's the film that we're talking about, that's the film we're going to be talking about mostly. But, even when we had to do the War and Peace episode, I'm like, holy shit, this son of a bitch is able to get through not only the 5 nominated films, but he's going to go through the submissions as well that were eligible for that year and try to go out of his way to be a clever little pirate and go around trying to find links to those. I'm like, holy shit, man, I have no idea how you do this and have this kind of energy and still have your your part-time job and have a life and such. It's really tough. So yeah, I bow down to you, sir.
And and I'm glad that you're continuing with the podcasting because unfortunately we're living in such an anti-art world right now.
Yeah.
So let's talk about films. Let's talk about culture. Let's talk about things that make us human. When people start to say that generative AI could be used to make films, no, I want people to make my films. I want people to make films because it's about the human experience. If it's just a technological thing, it's nothing. It makes more sense. It gives more significance because it's about human experience, and that's why podcasts like this and the others in the universe who talks about films, writes about films, do your thing because it's becoming a very anti-art world, and we need art more than ever, if you could believe that. So yeah.
Yeah. There's probably some idiot out there who's like, I prefer not exploring other movies. I like it when movies hold my hand and tell me everything I'm supposed to feel within the moment. Not being told how not making me think. I don't like those kind of movies. I prefer to just be told, here's your Lifetime movie crap or whatever, and be like, here, oh hey, there's a bunch of flowers. Oh yay, whatever. Here's your little your little emotional tug at your heartstrings, and you have a laugh, you have a little cry, and then you go on with your life. It's like, no, fuck that. I don't want that kind of movie. I want something that challenges me and makes me feel like I got an experience out of it, even if it makes me felt like I went through like a workout, So,
Like War and Peace.
yeah, honestly, I really liked War and Peace a lot. I know we're getting off on a tangent here, but I really liked War and Peace. Check out our episode if you haven't already, and check out the movie if you haven't already. I don't know if it's still in stock or whatnot, but yeah, check it out for sure. Anyways, yeah, so yeah, we're going on a tangent with this, because this was supposed to be a conclusion episode or wrap up. Anyways. As for me, you could follow myself and the show through Linktree under @Matthew995, where you could follow along on all my social media accounts, such as Twitter and Letterboxd. On the same side, I provide a link for where you can listen to more episodes of the show through Spotify and YouTube as well. Check out our YouTube page. We have some exclusive YouTube content going on there, or YouTube videos, I should say, that are going on there, such as a Criterion collection I've already posted up. Listing all the stuff I have. I might be posting some movie reviews that I will be watching eventually that aren't covered on the main show or on my Patreon page. Speaking of which, I also have a Patreon page. Check out that for more bonus episodes called After Hours. Our membership is only $3 a month. So if you have the money and you're interested in listening to more episodes on After Hours, check us out. It's worth the money. In fact, I've been having a couple guests contact me the last, we're recording this July 26th, and literally 2 days ago, I just got contacted from a couple people asking, like, hey, can I be on the After Hours show down the road? And I go, yeah, sure, why not? So we'll have plenty of guests come on, and some of which will be, first-time members on the podcast altogether. Others will be from the main episode you're already listening. Who knows? I may get Juan Carlos Ollano back on, so long as we don't have any internet fuck-ups.
Yay!
So
please have me back.
Yeah, no, I will. I'll try. Yeah, we'll think of something. So, anyways, if you're interested in being in the hot seat, let me know, and hopefully we can arrange that happening soon to anyone out there who wants to be on the show. In the meantime, we hope you enjoyed listening to this episode, and we hope to see you at the movies. Take care, guys.